being the Telio stream. Oh, wait. Okay, I see it in JW player. Okay, I think you're live. I'm going to drop off. Want me to send it live on YouTube? Oh, it is. Okay, I'm dropping off.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome. I know many of you have been waiting, anticipating for this moment. I do humbly apologize for the technical difficulties that we've been having. Unfortunately, there was an issue with the stream, but our engineers were working really hard behind the scenes to get things up and running. And ta-da, here we are. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to wish you a very warm welcome. And depending on which part of the world you're tuning in, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. My name is Ross. I'm from Luno, Malaysia. And in Malaysia, it's 8:20 p.m. Unfortunately, we've started a little bit late, so I'll try to keep this short, sweet, and simple so that we can get started. Welcome to Crypto State Southeast Asia. Let's get a virtual round of applause all around the world to all of you who are tuning in this evening. The topic for today is one of the hottest debates in the world of crypto, Metaverse, Gimmick or distributed innovation. What is the Metaverse? Is it useful to our daily lives? Well, today's event is a collaboration between Coindesk, a leading crypto news publication where you can get all the latest happenings in crypto, and Luno, which is a global crypto exchange on a mission to bring the power of crypto into everyone's hands. Tonight is the third in the Around the World series of events focused on telling the global story about the future of money. The objective of this forum is to bring together great speakers, industry leaders from different parts of the world in Southeast Asia to share their wisdom and their insight about the metaverse, the blockchain, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, and I can go on and on. As you guys already know, businesses like Facebook and Nike are already going into this space. So it's important that we equip ourselves with the right knowledge so that we're best prepared to step forward into the metaverse. Now, ladies and gentlemen, considering the global events that are happening today, as many of you know, right now, Russia and Ukraine are at war. And it is really sad. War is a very sad situation to be in. Because of this, I know it's a little bit unorthodox, but I would like to humbly request for a few moments of silence as you contemplate and reflect on the life that you have and how grateful we can all be where we are now. Please think about the fact that around the world, there are people indeed suffering. Let us have a few moments of silence for this. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me in those moments of silence as we stand in solidarity with the people who are currently suffering around the world. It is unfortunate, and I'm really grateful that today we can gather together and still have discussions like this online from people from all around the world. Tonight's event brings together some great speakers from all the corners of Southeast Asia so that you guys can learn more and enjoy about the metaverse. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me quickly run through today's event. We're going to start with a quick welcome, which I've already done. We're going to go over to a panel session. We're going to open the floor to question and answer as well. You can ask questions online on Visible, and you can also ask in a Telegram group. We're going to be having a consensus promotion as well as a POAP, POAP is really special. It's like a little NFT to commemorate the fact that you attended tonight's event. So make sure you stay all the way until the end. Without further ado, let me quickly introduce our amazing speakers for the lineup this evening. All the way from Indonesia, I'd like to invite Mr. Jimmy Saputra. He's an entrepreneur and a true businessman at heart. He's also the CEO and founder of Tiga Token Digital, and he recently launched an NFT marketplace called Neftipedia for digital artists and collectors in Indonesia. If anyone's from Indonesia, hello, selamat petang, and welcome. Thank you for joining us. Next, from all the way in Singapore, we've got Miss So Wanwei. Wanwei is the head of ecosystems at Multiverse Labs. She's a builder and accelerator of the Metaverse. And we're really grateful to have her because she is a very sought after speaker. I just went to her LinkedIn page and so many events that she's been doing this year, speaking about topics such as Web 3.0 and the Metaverse. Make sure you direct your questions to her today as well. Last but not the least, for our panel, we've got Mr. Bobby Ong, all the way from Malaysia, my home country. Anybody in Malaysia and Singapore, say hi. He's the co-founder and the COO of CoinGecko. You know, they started CoinGecko since 2014, when barely anybody was even talking about Bitcoin. CoinGecko is now one of the leading cryptocurrency data aggregators worldwide. And you know, Bobby didn't pay me to say this, but CoinGecko has really developed some of the best ebooks in the world on cryptocurrency and NFTs, such as how to Bitcoin, how to DeFi, and how to NFT. Go and check it out. Last but not the least, we've also got a co-moderator, Ms. Leah Callan-Butler. Leah's going to be joining me later on as we filter through some of the question and answers, and we're going to moderate our questions for the panel later. Leah's the director of Emphasis, an advisory and investing firm focused on Web 3.0 innovation for social impact in emerging economies. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ross. Once again, thank you and welcome. I'm going to kick things off with our first question of today. Now, this question, I'm going to direct it to all of our speakers one at a time. I know many of you who are tuning in from the audience, you're probably asking this question: what is the Metaverse? And so speakers, I would like each of you to take just one short minute. How would you describe the Metaverse to a beginner, someone who doesn't know anything about crypto, they don't understand the blockchain? How would you describe the Metaverse to them? Let's start with Bobby. Bobby, I'm going to pass the mic over to you. How would you describe the Metaverse?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. I'm glad to be on the show today. So when it comes to the word Metaverse, I generally like to use Matthew Bell's definition. He has covered it very comprehensively in his essay. And on this topic, he described basically 7 different characteristics for the Metaverse. He said the Metaverse will be persistent. So you'll always be online, be synchronous and live, and be without any cap to concurrent users. So you can have a place where you can host millions of people, for example, be a fully functioning economy, for example, be an experience that spans both the digital and physical world, private and public networks, open and closed platforms, offer unprecedented interoperability of data, digital items, content. So things like your punk would on a few different metaverse, for example, your game items could be on a few different metaverse. And it's also populated by content and experiences created and operated by an incredibly wide range of contributors. So not just content created by a small subset of creators, I mean, for like media operators, for example, but anyone in the world can create content or experience. So for example, you can host a birthday party or a concert that anybody could attend in the world. So that's kind of the definition that I'd like to use for the Metaverse, like from Matthew Bell, basically.
Wow, that's quite the definition. Bobby, you've just brought in every single aspect of crypto and blockchain all together. But I think that's basically what the Metaverse is. It's a big umbrella with everything inside. Is that right?
Yeah. Basically covers a lot of things here.
Indeed. Let's right now we go over to Singapore. Wanwei, I see you smiling, Wanwei. How would you define the Metaverse for someone listening tonight?
Hey, thanks, Ross. I was smiling because the big umbrella metaphor is like really apt to describe the state of the this course today. Okay, I'll make it very simple for the layman. So just remember 3 things. The Metaverse is defined as like it has immersive traits. So what immersive means, right, is that you can identify this other world, whether it's real or imagined world. So it needs to be immersive. It needs to be interactive. This means that you can interact with the metaverse environment. You can communicate with the avatars. You can basically change a skin for any of your maybe digital pet. on Web3, right? Okay, so the third point is that it needs to be social, which means that your friends need to be there. You cannot just be there as a solo person. So three things that define the metaverse as maybe the next iteration of the mobile internet: immersive, interactive, and social. Yeah.
All right, fantastic. I love that definition, especially the immersive part. You really need to get into everything. And that's where I think you bring in things like virtual reality, augmented reality as well. Is that right? Fantastic.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so now we go finally to our last and final panel speaker. Jimmy, can you describe for the audience, how would you define this word, the metaverse?
Thank you, Ross. Well, yeah, for me, this is like a realistic and immersive digital experience. I mean, at the moment, we use it for the game, but this is what Metaverse will bring. So all the innovation sooner or later become an integral part of our life. What is perceived as pure entertainment now will be used for day-to-day needs. So Metaverse will have more application than just the future world. So it will give opportunities of being present at the time and a space where we could not be present physically. So I mean, yeah, this is the future. I mean, I'm so excited about it.
I love how you said this is the future. Wow, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Bobby has defined it using something from Matthew Bell's definition, something that's persistent, always live, without any cap to users. In fact, one way has also added to that it should be something that's immersive, something that's social. And then Jimmy saying that it is the future, it's going to be integrated in part of society. You know, our lives today are all physical. The metaverse is almost like a digital extension of our lives. Wow, I sound like I'm a metaverse speaker, but actually I'm not. Ladies and gentlemen, last but not the least, I also want to invite my co-moderator, Leah Callan Butler. She's dialing in all the way from the Philippines. In fact, Leah actually has some interactions in the metaverse. She's covered things like Axie Infinity, these games that people play. And Leah, perhaps you could describe a little bit about that and maybe direct some questions about that kind of environment in the metaverse to our speakers this evening. Leah, over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that amazing introduction. Incredible. Thank you for having me here. I'm very excited. As you mentioned, I am based in the Philippines, and it was mid-2020 when I stumbled across Axie Infinity as just an interesting use case for blockchain. At the time, there was less than 500 people around the world playing it daily. And, you know, at its all-time high, it was almost hitting 3 million players a little more than a year later. So the growth of that game over the past sort of 18 months has been insane. So I guess for me though, like the reason why that took off was that we saw that there was huge impact on real people in terms of their daily lives. And it's one of those things that I think as blockchain people, we love to talk about, you know, how blockchain is going to save the world and it's going to make things so much more efficient, reduce costs, make everything faster. But this was one of the best use cases I'd seen in terms of how people could interact between the metaverse and the real world and improve their own lives. If you haven't seen it, please do check out our mini documentary that we made. It's called Play to Earn. You can find it on YouTube. But what I wanted to ask our speakers is, what have you seen in your world in terms of how the metaverse actually means stuff to people? You know, why should people care? We've heard all the pitch and everything, but why should people really care about metaverse in their lives? Who wants to start us off? Bobby?
I thought Jamie wanted to go first for future of metaverse. Should you go first, Jimmy?
Jimmy.
Oh, Bobby, you're naughty, huh?
I mean, I can do first. I can go first.
No, it's okay.
Jimmy.
Yeah, okay. Now we also just launched our beta version of our game NFT called NFT Land. Well, inspired, of course, from Axie Infinity. Well, this is very how to say. We are now working on the Metaverse project. I mean, will be the second version of our game, and yeah, we are so excited. So, well, Metaverse will have more application than just a virtual world, and it will give opportunity of being present at time and space. I mean, how to say it? Maybe many like a psychiatrist visit will become something bearable in the metaverse, or a class teaching, the Greek mythology will be much more interesting and beneficial if you immerse into the Greek myth. I mean, many more with the how to say health. Okay, with the doctor when they want to do some. So I don't know, a lot of things. For me, it's now I'm so overwhelmed with this kind of thing. But I mean, now I give to Bobby now.
Yeah, sure. So the way I think about Metaverse is that it's just kind of like a spatial version of our internet. It's like a next evolution of the internet. If you think about how we interact with the internet right now, it's mainly 2D via websites. You click on a few things on your laptop, and then we kind of move from the desktop-centric internet to a mobile-centric internet. Now you carry your computer everywhere you go. So that's kind of a good thing, but it's still very 2D. You kind of click and type on a 2D environment. Whereas the Metaverse, you can think about it more of a 3D version of the internet, if you may. So by thinking in terms of 3D, you suddenly, it replicates the physical environment in the virtual world. So it creates kind of like a parallel version of our physical world. And then with, if you play games like Roblox or PUBG or one of these other games, like you start seeing some of these things and you start going around these virtual environments. So that's kind of there. I think the kind of missing things are like the virtual economies, the things that are interoperability of the data between all these games. Those are things that are not there yet. And I think if you start looking at some of these games, people are hosting interesting things, not events hosted by the game developers itself. But so for example, there could be a concert on one of these metaverse, and because there's no concurrent cap on the number of users, you could have like theoretically 1 billion users watching this concert in real life. Whereas in the physical world, that's kind of not really possible to host 1 billion people in a stadium, for example. So like interesting things like that would be sort of very immersive in the future. Obviously, we're going to add in the VR element in there as well. We don't really have that. I mean, we kind of have that right now, but it's still pretty expensive, clunky, but that's kind of all coming as technology improves over the years. And as Jimmy said, I think we're just at the start, like we're starting to see elements of what the metaverse could be. And I think in the coming years, as things develop, hardware devices, internet speed and everything else develops further, like this will kind of be kind of mainstream, and it will be very normal and expected behavior to kind of hang out in the metaverse and to just chill out with friends, for example.
Yeah, I totally hear you. And I guess the only thing I would add to all of those elements too is also just the permissionlessness of crypto underpinning all those things, and the way that can smash those geographic boundaries that so many people have been traditionally restricted by. You couldn't find a job or you couldn't network with certain people because of the place that you were born. And I think that Web3 is really kind of challenging that idea. So you can have all those amazing immersive experiences, but kind of participate in a way that is very true and authentic through, say, something like your MetaMask wallet. One way, would you add anything to that?
Okay, sure. So I think the other use case that we have been seeing at Multiverse Labs is fashion. So according to Business of Fashion, we all know that by 2030, the luxury fashion market size on the Metaverse would be like 50 billion euros. So this is like a research data point that we have, right? So phygital, which is a term that means combining of what you see in retail, things you can touch, and digital is coming together very nicely to form the metaverse, especially in fashion. And interestingly, WGSN, which is this fashion forward media, they did a lot of research on the metaverse in the fashion context since 2018. So I think these are all like very well-documented industry data. So instead of thinking like, why should you care about the metaverse? Why not think, can you afford not to care? Actually, my personal answer is yes, we can afford not to care as well. But if we adopt that kind of mindset, right, there are a lot of potential and possibilities that we are losing out on. So I think it all depends on how the people want to embrace this kind of like growth possibilities and how they want to interact with more world. But back to the question, is it okay not to care? It's definitely okay not to care. We are not forcing you to care about it. Yeah.
I love your candidness with that question.
Yeah, I love the question. Is it okay for you not to care? Can you afford not to care? Wow, really putting it to the audience. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, as we're speaking to our forum panelists this evening, you can actually type more questions that you want to ask them. You can type it either in Telegram. There's a little Telegram group with some of the people who are attending this evening. You can also type it on Visible Online, and Leah's going to be filtering through some of the questions so that she can direct them to our panel speakers later on. So guys, I want to ask you this question because I get this a lot. Whenever I educate people about Bitcoin and crypto, people are still very skeptical. They still don't believe that this technology is possible. And I'll tell you why. For all of my life, I have lived a physical life. And then COVID-19 came in, and then we all had to transition to a digital sort of a lifestyle, right? All my events started going digital. We use Zoom, we do Crypto 101 webinars all online. And just last week, I had the wonderful opportunity to do a physical webinar. And it was so refreshing. It was so nice to see people face to face and do that webinar. So pretend I'm the biggest skeptic in the room. Do you guys genuinely think that one day we're all going to just become virtual and that's going to be okay? Or do you think people will still prefer that physical human connection face to face? One way, you were talking a little bit about this Phi Digital. Can you share a little bit your personal opinion? Do you really think we're all going to become virtual avatars?
Okay, so that's a very good question. I do have an answer to that because let me share a personal experience. So I work as head of ecosystem. So we meet a lot of partners every day. So one day I had coffee with this guy, right, who is a very established entrepreneur in Singapore, but he is not involved in Web3, didn't buy Ether, didn't buy Bitcoin. So he was like, I can't wait to burn your office down. He literally said that to me. He hated the metaverse. He knew that we are doing like a photorealistic version of the metaverse, and he said that to me. Then I was like, why that hatred? So he was like saying his younger children are getting addicted, adults are getting addicted, and all we are doing is like we don't even know where eggs come from anymore. The younger kids say it's from supermarket. Now this kind of thing, right? So he was like, the metaverse will make it even worse. People think that the egg is from NFT. And I completely see it as normal, like for the younger generation to think that way. So my personal opinion is that it is important for us as Web3 practitioners to also know the downsides of metaverse. Please help people not get addicted. Yeah.
All right. That's a good point. You know, kids today may grow up thinking eggs come from NFTs. That would be a scary future to live in. But that's an interesting story. So he had hatred, in fact, not just anger, hatred for the whole concept.
He wanted to burn down our office. He literally said that to me.
Dear. That is quite scary. So you can see, ladies and gentlemen, some people really are all into the metaverse and there are still skeptics. But it's important to weigh both sides or both points of view in order to have a comprehensive view. Now, Jimmy, I'm going to direct this question to you. Again, about this whole physical versus virtual life. Jimmy, will my future girlfriend become an NFT? Is that the person I'm going to marry, an NFT in the future of the metaverse?
That's still scary. But you know, I remember, I mean, if you're talking about my personal opinion, I remember when I was so skeptic about internet about like 20 years ago or 25 years ago. So yeah, internet is the first generation where when it was started, I mean, me, one of the ignorant person who really not really into internet, which is I regret it. You see what internet do for the world now, and those who not really how to say ignorant about the internet, like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Jack Ma, you see now they're on top of the pyramid, and the blockchain actually is the second generation. And what I see after I learned about the blockchain, I mean during pandemic, I mean I was like amazed. And I realized that this is going to be the second generation which will change the world. That's why I'm into it. And then I mean, it was last year still into the crypto, blockchain, and NFT. And then recently this metaverse come up, and I realized that wow, this is another thing that will really change the world. So yeah, metaverse will allow you to experience the things you probably could not in offline life. Just imagine you learn about the event in the history by being a part of this event, or you go on an adventure with your friend who cannot visit you personally. You know, we should not perceive metaverse as reality even bring lots of things and experience close to reality. Privacy has to be strictly observed and protected. The data should be protected by, of course, blockchain. I mean, yeah, that's from me.
Excellent.
I mean, blockchain is the second generation that I mean, I will not be the ignorant for the second time.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that, Jimmy. You've also kind of revealed a bit about your age since you were alive during the internet. When the internet was coming, I think I was just being born. So I was born into the age of the internet and I embraced it. So I was never skeptical about the internet, but I'm still a bit skeptical about the blockchain. Now, you claim it's the second generation of the internet. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Well, that's going to be interesting. Yeah.
Well, this year I'll be 50 at the same age with Elon Musk. So I've been through a lot of things, starting 30 years ago when I was 20 years age, and then I was so ignorant back then, and I mean, and now with this 5G, with this smartphone, blockchain, I mean, I witnessed a lot of transformation, and this is the time for us to enter the future.
Wow, very inspiring. In fact, you're echoing in my head exactly what One Way was saying. We can't afford to be ignorant anymore. The metaverse is already upon us. It's time that we equip ourselves with the right knowledge in order to access it. Now, last but not the least, Bobby, I've got a question for you. We've been talking about, the physical, the virtual world. The question I want to pose to you is similar to what you mentioned earlier, right? So you talked about Web 1.0, you just read it. Web 2.0 is just very 2D, and Web 3.0. Now, I've heard that Web 3.0 is about ownership. Now, if I go to a bank and I sign a document, I know that I've got that physical evidence that I can hold and I can see. And whenever I teach people about cryptocurrencies, they always want, if they can see it, they can believe it. So Bobby, when you talk about Web 3.0 and everything's going digital, how can we really prove ownership in the metaverse, in this virtual reality? How do we know who owns what?
I mean, the definition of Web 1, 2, and 3 is that Web 1 is just read them. Web 2, you read and write. Basically, Facebook allows anybody to kind of contribute to the community. I mean, to the online. And then on Web 3, you can read, write, and you can own the things created online. So that if you're a designer, you can kind of create something and own. I mean, the blockchain is kind of like a ledger, which shows you who owns what at what point in time, and that ledger can represent anything. It can represent a fungible token like Bitcoin. It can represent a non-fungible token like an NFT, or it can represent, in fact, the vast majority of items in our world are non-fungible items. So things like the records of who owns which house, who owns which car, they're all recorded on a centralized ledger, centralized database sitting in some government offices. And you basically trust that the government will not rug you, will not take away what you supposedly own. I mean, or freeze the assets that you own, like kind of what's happening in some banks in Canada, for example, right now. But on a blockchain, like you basically hold the private keys, and the private key gives you access to this asset. And that asset can represent anything. It can represent something in the digital world. So it could be Bitcoin, could be an NFT, could be your CryptoPunk, could be your BAYC, could be your Ape, could be an NFT that represents a physical asset in the real world, like an NFT that represents a car or a house, for example, or NFT that represents fractional ownership of something else. So yeah, that if you own the private key, you basically have access to that asset, and that's kind of how you exert control of that ownership. Whereas in the traditional Web 2 world, I suppose, the traditional world, like you exert ownership by trusting that the government records are clean, they're not tamper-proof, and what is there is not modified, for example.
Right. So the difference is whether you trust your government or whether you trust yourself. And that, I think, is the power indeed of the metaverse. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking a lot about the positives, about how this is all about the future. But, as a lecturer myself, I always tell my students, we need to take a step back and also consider perhaps the possible pitfalls and downfalls. I'm going to pass the time now to Leah. Perhaps, Leah, you can dig into a little bit of information about what some problems might come up in the metaverse. Leah, over to you.
Yeah, well, I guess one of the ones that I wanted to pose to our speakers is that, I guess in IRL and, the normal world, most people rely on the government to govern the way that we live. And obviously crypto was kind of set up to, I guess, circumvent a lot of those intermediaries, whether it be governments or banks, and create a brand new system that would be owned by the people. But as we kind of move into this Web3 space, we're sort of seeing a lot of push and pull between Web 2 and Web 3, for example. And are we actually seeing a time now where, like, let's just address the elephant in the room, Facebook's Meta? Are we starting to see now that, like, some of these tech companies have become so huge in Web 2, like Facebook, like Google, they are the new governments? Like, what are your thoughts on this? And, how do we overcome this? Is it a real problem? Can we collaborate with them? What is actually the push and pull here, and how do you view it? Who would like to tackle that one?
A very big question you've just asked, Leah. It's a bombshell of a question. Let's see which one of our panelists would like to go first.
Let me just take a stab at this, right? So,
All right.
in fact, I would argue that we've probably reached a stage where the big tech companies of our generation have become so powerful that they are probably more powerful than our governments. Excuse me. So if you think a number of users on Facebook, for example, I don't know, there's like 3 billion users, for example. On a number of users basis, they are probably the largest country in the world. They probably generate GDP larger than many countries as well, maybe except for a few large ones like the US, obviously. But they exert a lot of power. The power that Facebook has probably can determine who is the prime minister, or if the prime minister stays or go in a particular, especially in the small developing countries. Maybe not really. Elections are being rigged all the time and on Facebook as well. But yeah, that's kind of where things are. I think the push and pull is whether how much power can we decentralize, can we take away from this big tech corporation, and can we decentralize it in a way where everybody has ownership instead of a few large shareholders in big tech company who make the decision? Can we decentralize governance in any of these future platforms? For example, if Facebook makes some changes and nobody likes it, nobody has a choice, actually. You basically subject to whatever rules or algorithm changes that Facebook or Google makes. Whereas in a parallel universe, if there is a decentralized version of Facebook or Twitter, for example, there could be a governance proposal from some members of the community, and then we can go for a discussion and debate, kind of like a massive town hall, I suppose, where people can discuss on the pros and cons of the changes. And if they don't like it, they can fork and leave and form their own country, right? So that's kind of like the debate, and we are trying, I guess there's a lot of experiments going around right now to see if that can work or not. But that being said, like, I think what's going to happen in the future is there will probably be multiple metaverses competing for users' attention. So multiple countries, kind of like how there are multiple countries all competing for the economic to win economically with each other. Some will be centralized, some will be decentralized. Centralized version obviously being better, and then there will be a lot of decentralized versions. People will be free to choose their metaverse of choice. The question, of course, will be, will people choose a decentralized metaverse or decentralized version of the internet, for example, to live in, or to choose a centralized version like Meta, for example, where things will most likely be, the user experience may be better, I suppose, because they're investing a lot of money on it, and they can probably move faster on a centralized platform. So that's that's kind of like where things are, and I think this is where the debate and it'll be interesting to see how things play out in the coming years.
Wow, that's a really interesting point. I like how Bobby just pulled in a bit of that statement. He said there's going to be multiple metaverses. You mean multiverses, like Marvel, Stephen Strange coming out? I just had a little bit of a callback to that. Sorry, Leah, you were saying something. Please go ahead.
No, I was just going to agree. I think it's really interesting. Like the term that you use, experimentation, I think is particularly apt because, you know, a lot of people are looking at this space now and really wanting final answers, but I think it's an incredibly nascent early stage, and we really are seeing some of the first iterations of what a future Web3 society could look like, particularly from a governance aspect. I'd be particularly interested to hear what you have to say, Jimmy, about this, you know, fight between Web 2 and Web 3.
Yeah, I've been recently had some meeting with my how to say governor. I mean, central bank here, and there's a question from them that I mean, this is actually not really about Web 2, Web 3, but I mean, this is connected. They're asking about the what is this? Why in marketplace of NFT we should pay, using crypto? And then I answer that. How to say? I answer in a very simple way, because he really don't understand about this. I mean, he is far away from this world. And I said that, do you understand when we go to time zone, this is the kid playground, you have to pay the token before you play the game. And when you enter the game, and then you play the game with the paying the token. And then I said like this, imagine also in a, how to say, conventional bazaar. I said, in conventional bazaar in our place, that we have to buy the voucher, and how to say, when you buy the food or drink, you have to pay using this voucher. You don't pay with the rupiah or fiat currency. And then he got the idea. Okay, now I understand. But how can we use the rupiah in marketplace? And I said, well, like this, you have to change or create rupiah in crypto. I said like this. And then of course the question about Web3 also. What is Web2? What is Web3? I mean, this is a question that quite difficult for me to answer for, how to say, people who don't understand at all about blockchain. And I said, well, if you see Web2, you use username and password, while in Web3 you just connect the wallet, which is simply use your wallet and connect into the platform. I tried to find a simple way to make him understand. When I show my application how to do it, and then he quite surprised, and well, this is very interesting. And then I said, well, Web3 blockchain, this is actually get rid of the middleman. It's peer to peer, that you have to connect from yourself into the system. I just try to answer in a very plain way, because the challenge for us now here to give a very simple explanation to people who really far away from this. This is kind of makes me, I have to prepare the simple explanation, like I explained to my grandma, something like this.
Exactly. What a wonderful, I love that, Jimmy, that you use that wonderful explanation that, when you go and play arcade games, those machine games, you have to use a token, right? And in the same way, in the metaverse, you have to use a metaverse kind of a token, right? Like a crypto token. Oh, I love that explanation. And I hope those who are listening, maybe you share that with your grandmother and see whether she understands the metaverse.
Because the regulation here is quite, strict about we cannot use crypto like a currency here. Our government recognizes crypto as an asset, like a commodity. That's why I give this analogy, a simple analogy, and they understand, and now they are like, oh, okay. Preparing for the second meeting. Like that.
Oh, that's wonderful. You're spearheading the way forward in Indonesia. Back to you, Leah. Any comments about Jimmy's answer?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel your pain, Jimmy. Like, I've been in that situation so many times as well, where you're really trying to explain the benefits. And the problem with crypto and Web3 is that it just seems to cross over so many different topics, issues, philosophies, communities. Like, where do you even begin? And again, like, I have to say, I think it just reflects on the fact that we really are such a nascent stage. When someone is signing up to Facebook, they don't need to know how the internet works, or, if you've got a SIM and you use a mobile phone, you don't really need to understand how telecommunication networks work. But at this early stage where people haven't really adopted at mass scale, it's kind of like, but what is the blockchain? I have to understand in order to adopt. And I think once we get past that and people just really understand the benefits, as opposed to the underlying technology, that's kind of the the bottleneck that we have to get past. So I feel you. I've been in so many of those those difficult conversations.
Indeed, it is quite challenging indeed. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm also keeping track of the time. Now, we did start a little bit late. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end with one more last question for our panelists. And then Leah is going to help me filter through some of the questions that are coming from the public. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is a live event. You can type in your questions on the Visible platform, or if you happen to be inside the Telegram group chat, you can type in your questions there. In fact, Leah is looking at her phone. She's looking through the questions right now, and she's going to be filtering through them, and she's going to be addressing them to some of our speakers. Now, if you have a specific question for one of the speakers, please write that speaker's name, and so we can address it to them in a few moments. Okay, so while Leah's going through those lists of questions, panelists, I've got one last question for you. Very important. I'm very interested to know this. I think many of those who are tuning in are also probably going to be investors. We're all looking to take advantage of the metaverse. You know, like Jimmy said, when the internet first came out, he was ignorant. He didn't take advantage of the internet, right? How much more he could have been the Elon Musk, the Tesla of Indonesia. I don't know. Maybe. Still got a chance, Jimmy. Still got a chance. Now the question is, the metaverse is here. Web 3.0 is here. Blockchain is here. Panelists, what can I do as an individual or as an investor to best position myself to take advantage and to really grow in the metaverse? One way, I'm going to ask you to take this one off first, and then I'm going to pass it to the other two gentlemen.
Okay, thank you, Ross. So I think layman, I think the best way is to have an open mind, because I think sometimes even in crypto, practitioners also don't know what is going on because it moves so fast. The cycle is very fast, right? So I'll give you some examples, like Metaverse lands, like people who watch in awe when they see the news that, oh, there's a recent Decentraland sold for $2.4 million bought by token.com. Like people will be like, oh, why would this suspicious buy a piece of JPEG file for 2.4 million. So some of them might just, dismiss it as like money laundering, or just because they don't understand. But just because if we don't understand does not mean that legit things cannot happen on it. So guess who bought the piece of land? It's actually by fashion. And just now I gave you a statistics by Business of Fashion, which is like respected media, the fashion world, that the total market is 50 billion euros by 2030, fashion, luxury, metaverse. So of course, we have to think of it in terms of, it's not just a JPEG thing. It is also about what the fashion people are what people are going to do on that piece of JPEG, so to speak. So to answer this question, going back to the question of how can we best position ourselves, is not to dismiss anybody immediately, and also to constantly follow the money, because I think it's a very obvious thing to follow the big money or any form of money flow, because people usually do not lie with the money. So if they put money on a piece of so-called JPEG, they must have seen some value, right? So I think that's the second point, to follow the money. And I think the third point is that let's not just talk about investment, but also about careers in the metaverse. Because as builders are building metaverse, there are going to be new demand for jobs that you have never seen before, like metaverse planners, you have metaverse, say, storytellers, even metaverse real estate brokers. Because if I'm going to sell land, I need to negotiate. So if someone can help me get the piece of Decentraland, not for 2.4 million, but a middleman can sort of negotiate down to 1.4 million, why not pay him some commission, right? So these are some of the things.
Excellent. Thank you for, I think that's a wonderful perspective you've given, that people should have an open mind and also to follow the money. As they say, money talks, right? If you put your money on the table, you mean business. And I like how you mentioned, there could be a possibility of kind of jobs that we may not have even expected before in the metaverse. Before Instagram and TikTok, we never had Instagram influencer, TikTok influencer. Now, thanks to those technologies, we do. Who knows what kind of new jobs might pop up and appear in the world of the metaverse? I'm quite excited to see that. All right, I'm going to direct the same question to Bobby. Bobby, how can I, as a regular person or as an investor, position myself to best take advantage of the metaverse?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with regards to positioning yourself is to really focus on education. Like there is really no point in hearing some recommendation of what tokens to buy, for example, because this changes all the time. And then you may be the exit liquidity for someone who's recommending you to buy a particular token. So what is important is to learn sufficiently enough for you to make good judgment call for yourself, because the metaverse as a concept is very nascent, as we discussed earlier, and this thing is constantly changing. Narratives will change. Knowing what will be the future is important. Staying up to date will be very important. There will be, I think, looking at what the young people are doing. I mean, it sounds really old, but like what the teenagers are using will probably give an indication, because they are usually early adopters of technology. Would probably be a good indicator of what will be the future as well. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, we were once young, Facebook was once cool, and now like your grandmother and your mom is using it, and like it's no longer fun to be on Facebook. In fact, I deleted it. It's not even fun to be there anymore. But yeah, that's kind of the point, right? Like knowledge is important because things change, and there will be a lot of opportunities, careers as well. And we don't know what will be like in the future, but if we have the right knowledge, we'll be well positioned to take advantage of that future.
Yeah, Bobby, you took the words out of my own heart. You know, you're honestly, you said education, and I just resonated with that. I love teaching and, you know, bringing more knowledge to people about crypto and the metaverse. So since you mentioned education, could you also share with us what tokens we should buy and invest in? No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to share. That one is financial advice, and we're not doing that tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Please, if you're asking any questions, do not ask Bobby what tokens to buy, okay? Do your own research. Go and download his book, How to Bitcoin, How to NFT, How to DeFi, and then you can learn from there. All right, Jimmy, I'm going to ask you the same question as well, Jimmy. If I'm an investor and I come to you and ask you, Brother Jimmy, how do I position myself to take advantage, to really grow and invest in the metaverse?
Okay, well, you should start in learning the blockchain, and then the also the advantage, and also I mean, there are many things about what blockchain can bring, and then and slowly you move to metaverse benefits, because in education, patient care, how to say, possession and ownership proof, etc. Well, society may be not fully ready for metaverse now, but they were not ready for internet either. You know, the society will adapt and absorb, or once it becomes popularized and affordable. The problem can be costly. I mean, VR glasses, you know, like Oculus is quite expensive now. How to say, the other tools are also society level to adopt. You know, when first I mean, back again, 15 or 17 years ago, when I started, how to say, using the email, when I was still using the facsimile to sending, how to say, letter or fast, you know, what I write to my partner. I remember when I learned to create my first email, it's it's pain in the yeah, I cannot say the backward, but you know, and then I have to teach you know, my staff or someone that also don't understand what is email. It's also quite crazy for me at those time. And now you see, even my 7 years old girl, I mean, she have her own email. You know, it's crazy things that this technology, you know, change very fast. Yeah, of course, metaverse, that's a new thing. You have to learn. Even me, I still learn a lot about what will be from metaverse, you know, give to us, you know.
That's fantastic. Jimmy, you are such a comedian, I tell you. You know, when you're saying about when you're creating your first email, I cannot remember the moment I created my first email, probably because I was born together in the age of the internet. So for me, it was quite normal to embrace. But I had to then teach my mother how to use the email. And just like you're explaining, you know, your children, they've picked it up so quickly. And this echoes exactly what Bobby was mentioning, right? The younger generation, they adopt these technologies in the metaverse so quickly.
Yes.
It's like people like us, we are running to catch up after them, but it's wonderful hearing your story about, how optimistic you are about this technology and how it's really going to transform our lives. And we really need to be knowledgeable and equip ourselves, and observe what's happening, what's going on. And, I know in Indonesia, because you're in Indonesia, there was this guy who sold a picture of his selfie, right? Gozali every day.
Yes, Gozali, yeah.
Exactly. Jimmy, do you think I can sell a picture of my afro as an NFT and I can make money in
Absolutely.
Indonesia?
Absolutely. You are beautiful. Your hair is amazing.
Oh, thank you, Jimmy. I'll call you after this talk and we'll see what we can
When
do.
NFT, I want to buy.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so enough about that. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking quite a lot. It's already 9 p.m. I don't want to take up too much of your time. So what we're going to do is we're going to address some questions from the audience. I think Leah, she's got some questions already. Leah, I'm going to pass the time over to you.
Thank you. So I've just picked out this really huge question. Apologies in advance if I don't pronounce your name correctly, but I think it's from Yu Chuan Hong. And they are asking, this is a huge question, so sit down if you're not sitting down already. How would we trust the privacy, data, and even crypto as money in the metaverse? Having such a big volume of users inside, how would our current technology even be able to handle this? And will it be a public or private virtual world? I mean, there's a lot to dissect there. I think, we're talking here about the spectrum of privacy, right? And I think that also kind of goes into the spectrum of decentralization and the fact that, even though we talk a lot about decentralization in crypto, it's not always convenient to be fully decentralized. And I think a lot of people are looking for convenience over full self-sovereignty. So there's one thing. The big volume of users inside, that's a great question. I mean, we can look into things like layer 2 scaling solutions and things like that. But, if we're talking about something like Facebook that has, what did you say, Bobby? Like 3 billion?
3 billion, I think. I think there's 3 billion users of Facebook. Let me check.
What blockchain solution is going to support that? And then also, will it be a public or a private virtual world? I mean, that's a great question as well, because I think we kind of went through that also, maybe sort of like 2018, 2019, when enterprise blockchain was like a big part of the conversation, and private blockchains were very much favored by banks that were entering the space. We've already talked about like the push and pull between the traditional world and the Web3 vision. So yeah, I mean, apologies in advance because there's a lot to unpack there, but great question from you, Yu Chuan Hong. Does anyone want to even poke a stick at that? Because there's a lot there. Bobby?
Yeah, I see Bobby smiling to himself.
Yeah.
I mean, I was seeing it one way or Jimmy. It's a pretty hard question, I would say. I mean, yeah. So I think a little bit about the public. And I kind of touched briefly earlier about how there will be multiple competing metaverses. Some will be centralized and some will be decentralized. So who's going to win is a big question mark, I suppose. I think Facebook Meta has an inherent advantage in this metaverse space, in a sense that they actually own the hardware, the Oculus that will connect to the metaverse. So I think Facebook learned the hard way that if you don't control the hardware piece, you are at the subject of mercy of Apple and Google. And if you've seen that as Apple kind of pivot towards more privacy, and that affected Meta's business model, which relies a lot on users divulging their private details to Facebook so that they can better target advertisers. So Facebook is at the mercy of Apple and Google, and Android could do the same thing as well and take off privacy. So they kind of learned that lesson, and they decided to bet very early on the future of metaverse and acquire Oculus. So the question is, will Oculus be the main device which we will use to access the metaverse? Can Facebook block competing metaverses from being accessed from Oculus, for example, or made it really hard for competing metaverses to be accessed from Oculus, for example? Will there be other VR devices, for example, from China, like the proliferation of devices, like how we are seeing Android devices these days, will these things support the decentralized future? It's all a big question mark right now. Nobody really knows. But what we know is there will be extreme competition between the centralized and the decentralized metaverses, and how people will remain public or private is another question. I think the internet, the web 2 has sort of allowed us to have anonymous profiles on Facebook and Twitter, which is an interesting behavior change. In the physical world, that wasn't possible at all. You are one, like, I mean, you can change your hairstyle and all to sort of look a bit different, but it's pretty hard to have an anonymous or a different profile. Oh yeah, it looked really different, Ross, by the way, after you made that. But yeah, and you could be a potato on Twitter if you want to, or you could be a completely different person in the metaverse. So there's a public and private persona to it. So yeah, let's see how it goes.
I can add on a little bit to that, Bobby. Since Bobby mentioned about open and close, right? I would like to add on like just to raise a simple fact that because the metaverse is immersive, there is way more data that will be collected, and we see this like daily at Multiverse Labs. In a sense that even your data of the iris, like if you imagine like Facebook having the Oculus, right? Like Bobby's point, right? And then they collect data of your iris. And let's say you have a health condition that's existing. So would it be possible to, with the amount of capital that Facebook already has, to make use of the health data that you have that is somehow tagged to your Facebook account? Like just now, what was the number mentioned? 30 billion users on Facebook.
It's 3 billion users on Facebook.
Yeah, 3 billion users on Facebook. So would that necessarily would that immediately translate to 3 billion users on Facebook health data getting compromised with the metaverse? That if Facebook Meta succeeds, would this be a possible outcome, and not maybe even 3 billion, but even more than 3 billion as they pour more and more money in? So I think something that is very important moving forward is ethics in the metaverse that definitely a lot of people have not looked into because it's such a new industry. It's something that we have to take note of as practitioners.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point about ethics. I think standards of behavior on the metaverse hasn't, what is acceptable and what is not acceptable behavior hasn't really been established on the metaverse right now. I was watching a video recently about how there was a wedding on the metaverse and someone just walked up to the bride and just punched him and then threw some wine onto the group, onto the groom and the bride. So they basically gate crash and cause havoc in their wedding. So will there be police or securities in metaverse? Will events be gated, for example? How do you, those are questions that what can you do if someone misbehave on the metaverse? Do you ban this character? What if you create just like how there's so much spam commands in Web 2, how will we handle all these bots that can be created to cause havoc in the metaverse, right? So that's kind of difficult, the thing to do. I mean, the other thing that we haven't really touched on today as well is how do we build a metaverse that is inclusive, where there is no discrimination based on race, gender, identity. For example, how do we prevent harassment of people based on gender and age? We don't want females to be harassed. We don't want people who are appear older to be harassed, for example. So yeah, these are questions that needs to be addressed.
Wow, that's a really big question. Ethics in the metaverse, discrimination in the metaverse. Are we going to hire security guards in the metaverse? That's a big question. I think it's a question for all of us to ponder about as well. Leah, I believe Leah has got one or two more questions she wants to direct to the speakers. Leah, over to you.
Yeah, I do. And that was a great discussion, but I think that's also kind of assuming that we're just going to continue on the same trajectory of adoption that we're currently on, that, within a few months, we're all going to be metaverse based and, living our lives there. But, there's also a little bit of fear that we might be going into a bear market. And I just want to do a quick shout out because I do know the person who's asked this question in the Telegram chat. It's Mike Mislos. He's the editor of Bitpanas, which is the #1 crypto news publication in the Philippines. And he's saying, if the industry is going to continue to market NFTs and play to earn in the metaverse, like especially right now, if crypto values are going down, if we're looking at the crypto cycle, how does this actually affect metaverse adoption? Like, do they correlate? How are people incentivized to enter the open metaverse? So, I'm not talking about Roblox or, Facebook's Meta. I am talking about like the open metaverse. Are people still incentivized to enter the metaverse if crypto is down? Like, how does the bear market affect this? I think, Bobby, I kind of think that's a question for you, but it's too obvious. So I'm going to throw to Jimmy.
Well, nowadays the crypto, we're talking about crypto population is about 16,500 cryptos around the world, and human population almost reach 8 billion people, right? I mean, how to say, for me, this is a very, very small numbers. Another 5 years from now, it will be 10 billion people around the world. And my prediction, the crypto will be 100,000, but still 10 billion to 100,000 cryptos is still nothing. I mean, the chance, I mean, is still big. I mean, I'm not worried about the how to say, we call it, well.
So I think, Jimmy, what you're trying to say is that there's so many people in the world and there's so much opportunity for adoption that you're not worried, right? When people talk about Bitcoin prices.
Yeah, I mean, when the market down, or I mean, the Metaverse, I mean, still many people will come to this, and especially the young people, like Ross said, when Nokia before being warned that, you see, there's a newcomer, Google coming, and then they say, okay, there's a, it's a children play, it's only for children, and then they don't understand that this children is multiply every year, and then more and more and more, and they adopt this to new technology so fast, like for example, my kid, when she play this Oculus, I mean, she mastered it very fast. I mean, for me, I don't understand how, and then she already like into this, how to say, many things inside it. I was like amazed. I mean, she's just 6 years old. I mean, 7 years old. And wow, this is, I mean, I see that in another 2-3 years, I'm not talking about 5 years, 2-3 years, these Metaverse things will be massive, will be like, yeah.
Yeah, I love your stories, Jimmy. Yeah, massive is the right word. I think the Metaverse is going to be massive as well. And your daughter is going to be at the forefront of the Metaverse in Indonesia. She's going to be mastering everything before everybody else, because she's got the right father in the right place. We're a little bit short on time, Jimmy, so I'm going to pass it over to One Way for a quick word to answer this question from Leah regarding this adoption and, Bitcoin prices going down and stuff like that.
Okay, thanks, Ross. Jimmy, I love your stories. I love all your stories. I had such a great time. Okay, so this question, right, is faced every day at Multiverse Labs. We have this question. We talk about this question every single day. Not about the prizes though, but we are very focused on user engagement on our platform, which soon will be in beta stage. So the thing is that it is very important to be crystal clear about which target audience you are targeting. So of course, Multiverse Labs, we have a coin, AI coin. So are we targeting like retail investors, VCs? Of course, these are stakeholders for the coin itself as a product. But our main product at the core is still the Metaverse app and the world that we are creating. So the correlation, right? Firstly, it's important to distinguish that there are two products going on here. First is the coin, second is the product. Second thing is that the success of the coin it may be correlated with the success of the platform, but it can be independently analyzed. So what we are very focused on is really building the engagement in the metaverse that we have on Multiverse, and also to onboard more and more users to beta test our product. So my overall answer is that, is it strictly correlated? I don't think so. I think for the longevity of a company, a metaverse company, open or closed, you still need a good product with a lot of users and engagement. Yeah.
That's a good point. You still need a good product. It doesn't matter whether the prices are up, prices are down, as long as you're building. And I think a lot of people in the crypto space also say this, in a bear market, we build. So that's always, a very common phrase that I hear. Bobby, perhaps just one last comment from you, a closing statement, any opinions that you have with regards to the adoption about the metaverse in light of, cryptocurrencies prices falling and being volatile, especially in this day and age.
I mean, price go up, price go down. I mean, it's only natural. It's a natural cycle of things. What I think is happening is, I think the NFT bull the bull run that's happened the past 1 year is pretty much a bit similar to the ICO bull run that we saw back in 2017, where there's so many coins, tokens, maybe useless tokens that were created, and a lot of them got wiped out, where the value goes to zero or very low price. And I think at some point, that's probably going to happen to a lot of NFTs that is created as well. A lot of the PFP projects may go to zero, especially people who are in for the quick buck and they don't want to have to do the real work of building a community or utility for their project. So a lot of them will probably die out. But a few strong ones will remain, like the remnants of the ICO bull run of 2017, 2018 was that a few strong projects ended up remaining and they end up going strong. So I think what's going to happen is that a few of these projects will end up surviving this bear market cycle, and then they will come back the next cycle stronger. And what we have observed is every cycle, after the bear market come by, the baseline of the number of users, a lot of people come into the bull market, but some just don't leave. So the baseline always increase at every cycle. So I think there will be more users and people will come in and go, and some of these projects will survive. The strong ones will survive, and the strong players in the industry will survive. People will stay in, but the weak ones will go off, and then they'll come back again the next cycle, and then we say hello to these tourists again, I suppose.
Wow, okay. It sounds like survival of the fittest in the world of crypto. The strong will survive. But ladies and gentlemen, I think that really encapsulates everything about crypto. You have to build a good product. You have to build, especially with regards to the metaverse, to echo what One Way said, they're building an immersive experience, all the way from Indonesia. Jimmy has experience talking about NFTs, about his own daughter, exploring the Oculus, mastering it even before himself. And we see, young people continuing to adopt and come into the market, whether or not prices go up or prices go down. Build a good project. Build a good, strong community, and you will see yourself continue to grow into the future of the metaverse. Some great questions. Thank you so much, Leah, for asking those questions from the community. Again, apologies, ladies and gentlemen. We're a little bit tight on timing, so we can't go through all the amazing questions. There were really some wonderful ones. I don't know, perhaps Coindesk can perhaps interview maybe our speakers later on and post some of their answers online. Maybe we could do that to help you answer those questions as well. Without further ado, I'd like to invite someone else to join us because we've got some promotions going on, right? We've got a promotional code that we want to share with everybody. So this is a consensus promo. I'm going to invite Sam, who's the head of Coindesk Studios, to join us right now on the stage. And I'm going to pass the mic over to Sam to explain a bit more about this consensus promo. And don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen, because after this, we're going to be explaining how each and every one of you are going to receive a POAP NFT token. So stay tuned for that. Until then, Sam, over to you.
Thanks, Ross. So I'm here just to talk about Consensus. Consensus is the festival where conversations like this happen on stage daily. It's the largest event in the crypto space. I'm going to share my screen and quickly show you guys a bit about what you can expect if you attend Consensus this year. So Consensus is the largest big tent crypto festival. We bring together all different protocols, chains, NFT projects, DAOs, kind of everyone within the ecosystem. And we're doing that this year in Austin, Texas, June 9th through 12th. We've been doing Consensus here at Coindesk since 2015, where it was much smaller. Now it's getting larger and larger to the point where we had to move from New York City to Austin, Texas to accommodate a growing audience. And as you can see, just a sample of the speakers who will be there this year. We have people from all sides of finance and investing, NFTs, platforms, protocols, etc., all coming to sort of talk to us about the opportunities that are happening within the blockchain space, and to really be able to dissect the sectors for you guys and really be create an opportunity to have a substantive conversation with some of the people who are really charting this vision. From a very broad overview, we've been seeing such an explosion of interest in the crypto space in the last year. And so we're here to help sort of unpack that for everybody. We just had a great conversation on the metaverse. The metaverse is going to be a hot topic at Consensus this year, as is a lot of other topics, such as sort of the role of money and currencies, how finance is changing, especially with DeFi. We're looking at the culture and entertainment aspects of NFTs, the metaverse, tokenized communities. The rise of Web3 was touched on today as well, and I think we're going to really go deep into there. And then make sure that we have a look towards sustainability and how we can make sure that sort of from an ESG perspective, that we are all being responsible. A couple of quick highlights. We are going to have some deep dives in our experience. So we're going to be deep diving into the creator communities. We're going to be deep diving into money itself in a segment called Money Reimagined. We're also going to have presentations from a ton of different chains and protocols to sort of talk about what's happening in our space. We're going to see media personalities from around the world come and talk about their interest and their involvements. We have everything from hackathons and pitch competitions. We have a talent hub for anyone who's looking to get into the crypto space and get a job or to offer a job. There's going to be a lot there. We are targeting about 15,000 people this year in Texas. So it's really one you're not going to want to miss. We talk about it being a festival. What that means for us is we wanted to create a decentralized festival as much as we are all living in a decentralized world. So in Austin, we have a convention center, which is 200,000 square feet, very large building that we're taking, but we also have many satellite locations. Here we're talking about a specific one for NFTs. We have a different one for DAOs. We have a court all around sports and entertainment. We have musical performances. We have robots. We have everything you could ever imagine coming to the festival, and it's going to be an amazing place to sort of meet and network and discuss and learn. We also have our own social currency that we utilize, which is called Desk. So if you come to Consensus, you will get Desk, and Desk is the way that you can buy things from food and drink to merchandise to NFTs. So each session that you attend, each room that you visit will have another opportunity for you to get Desk. And Desk really becomes this opportunity to sort of gamify a conference experience. So we're really excited about that as well. For those who may not be as experienced as some of our panelists today, we have a whole session called Crypto Unlocked for the crypto curious. So this is really the people who are trying to onboard into the system, which a lot of the folks on this panel do such a great job at. And in addition, we're going to have sort of beginner content throughout the whole festival. So it is a place that also people can come and learn, which I think is really important. When we look at the types of passes, we have a 3-day pass, a 4-day pass, and what we call our Piranha Pass, which is our really big player pass. So the general admission is just a 3-day, very quick, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's really, if you want to get the core information, that's where you come. The 4-day pass, the Pro Pass, gives you a couple of extra things. One, it gives you a bunch of content on Thursday. We have our Money Reimagined Summit. We have our Crypto Unlocked for the beginners, and we have our Creator Summit. So really sort of covering those areas. In addition, we have music every single night with mainstream artists performing, plus other experiences at our satellite locations. And then for those who do want to come in complete style, the Piranha Pass is really your most luxury pass possible, which you can read about. Finally, we would love for you to join us at Consensus. And because of that, we want to give everyone here a 20% discount on any pass that they want. So you can go to Coindesk.com, click the Consensus 22 link on the upper left, and put in the code LUNO20. And LUNO20 will get you that discount. There's a link here. I'm not expecting you to write it all down, but it will be shared out as well to everybody here. And we really hope to see you this year at Consensus.
All right. Thanks so much, Sam. Really appreciate it. Remember, guys, go and get your Consensus discount. The discount code is LUNO20. I hope to be able to attend as well. Hopefully, COVID-19 numbers go down and we can travel again. And I'd love to come and see all the amazing things that you're doing at Consensus. You've basically thought of every single aspect of the metaverse, and it's going to be all there live for you guys to enjoy. So please, if you're in America or if you can travel, please go and head down to Consensus. I guarantee you it is a life-changing experience. All right, thank you very much, Sam. I'm now going to call upon Ollie. Ollie is the Learn editor at Coindesk, and he's going to explain a little bit about this POAP token, right? It's sort of like to commemorate everybody who attended today's event. So Ollie, over to you.
Thanks, Ross. Hi, everyone. And thank you all for coming. Thank you for having me. Let me just share my screen. Okay. So today I'm going to be taking you through what is a proof of attendance protocol, or POAP. This is going to be particularly interesting for NFT investors or NFT holders if you're into that sort of thing. It's really branching out the use cases of this asset class. So we're going to be going through what is a POAP, how do they work, why do they matter? I'm going to be touching on some interesting real world use cases right now. And then we're going to be talking about how to redeem your Coindesk POAP and then how you can use that to get your desk tokens. So what is a POAP? Okay, so let's go that one. Oh, there we go. So a proof of attendance protocol is basically a unique NFT-based digital badge. You can think of it as a proof of participation. Okay? So you can collect these from events, whether they're physical or in person, sort of virtual. And what you can do is you collect these, you can accrue them, you can show these to people, and you can kind of document your life experiences using them. Attendees to Crypto State by Coindesk, today you're all going to be receiving a free POAP as a memento. So how do they work? You know, what's behind all of this? So they're built using the ERC 721 token standard, and this is the common token standard for creating fungible tokens on Ethereum. Initially, they were launched on Ethereum, but now you can actually go onto Gnosis chain, which makes them significantly faster and cheaper to deploy. But if you'd like to convert them back to the Ethereum mainnet, you can do that, and it just have to pay a small gas fee to do that. And I would actually recommend you guys doing it on the weekends to try and save on those high congestion fees that can sometimes happen. So, you know, if you want to start, you can create your own POAPs, you want to do that for your event. What you're going to need to do is basically have graphic files in PNG formats that do not need to exceed 200 kilobytes. And unfortunately, you can only have them square. So we recommend a 500 by 500 pixels. I'm going to be sharing the deck on Telegram after this, so you'll be able to follow the links and follow all of this to do it yourself. But effectively, you'll basically have an option to fill out descriptions of your event, the POAPs themselves, and then the mint links. And this will equal the amount of POAPs that you'll need to handle your event. And then also be an edit link that will come through on your email in case you need to make changes. So that's kind of how you do it from there. And then, so why do these POAPs matter? You know, what's so exciting about them? How are these pushing the NFT space forward? And so it's not only just a way of you showing off your decentralized identity and kind of, you know, documenting where you've been, but it's a great way for projects and developers to really filter through and find out who their loyal customers are. And normally they look at, you know, who's most invested, who's most active on Discord. But unfortunately, you have short-term speculators in the mix there, and also a lot of bot traffic that we see on Discord and other social media channels. So POAPs are going to be a really great way for projects and developers to be like, oh, hey, these guys have been to all of these events. We know exactly who our real loyal customers are, and we can reward these guys with, like, so for example, Bankless DAO airdropped a load of tokens to people who had claimed their POAPs in the past. What I actually think is the most interesting use case that we're starting to see is actually developing and collecting POAPs to build a blockchain style resume. So let's say you're an employer and you're looking to hire a crypto event manager, maybe for Consensus, who knows? You know, you want to be finding people who have the experience of going around to different events. You want to make sure that they've traveled around, they have a good understanding of the industry. And so POAPs would be a fantastic way of seeing that and for potential strong candidates for the roles. So this is just something that POAPs are now starting to come to the fore. Additional benefits include better privacy. They almost act like zero knowledge proofs in the sense that you can prove you've been to an event without having to provide evidence of your ticket, which has your personal information on. Better customer targeting, like we spoke about, you know, it's great for projects' way of filtering through and finding their loyal customers, and new memorabilia opportunities. So, you know, I've put here first ever Beatles tickets. If you ever happen to attend an event and you collect a POAP from that, and down the line, that becomes a really iconic historical crypto event, that could gain value, and you could trade that just like any other NFT. So there's a real opportunity there for memorabilia. So how do you redeem your Coindesk POAP? And this is a picture of it in the bottom right-hand corner here. Pretty simple, and we've tried to make it simple as possible. You'll receive an email with an individual link to your own unique POAP. You can claim it immediately by clicking the link or entering your email address to claim it later. The ticket will effectively give you more access and opportunities in the Coindesk ecosystem. And like Sam mentioned, it will be an early user for our upcoming loyalty program through Desk. So stay tuned. We'll have a Discord channel as well coming up. So stay tuned for that one. So what is Desk and how do you get your hands on it, guys? Super simple. It's an ERC20 token, a fungible token based on Ethereum. It's going to be officially dropping at Consensus this year. It's been going, there's a huge amount of work's been going through this over the last year. And we're going to be launching it with an integrated Web3 dashboard. And like Sam said, it's a way of giving back to our community, our readers, our, you know, all our partnership communities, and just basically incentivizing you to continue working with us. And we just want to give that back to you in this way. I can't go any further. Oh, there we go. That's everything for now. Thank you so much, guys. Back to you, Ross.
All right. Thank you so much, Ollie. And it's wonderful to see all the utility. I didn't realize that Poaps could have so much utility building a resume, zero knowledge proof. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope you all will claim your Poaps later. Let me just give a verbal reminder to please, everybody, check your email in the next 24 hours. We're going to be sending you some information about how to redeem your Poap token. All of you are going to get one, right? And you also get information in that email about your Consensus 2022 discount code. And you'll also be able to watch the recording of this session. Just remember, you check your emails, and in case you don't see it in your inbox, always remember to check your spam folder as well. It might be there. Also, tune in at 10 p.m. Singapore time or 9 a.m. ET time to watch The First Mover on Coindesk TV for biggest news in crypto stories of the day. You can watch it on Coindesk's Twitter, YouTube, or Coindesk.com. So that's going to be coming up in about 20 to 30 minutes time. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our Metaverse forum for this evening. What I want to do now is a group picture. So if I could kindly ask all our panelists and speakers to kindly switch on your cameras and give me the biggest smile all the way into the Metaverse. I'm going to take a picture together. Smiles, everybody. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much once again to One Way from Multiverse Labs, to Jimmy from Token Tiga Digital, and to Bobby Ong from CoinGecko. Myself, I'm Ross from Luno, and another big thank you to Leah Kellon Butler from Emphasis. Thank you very much to Ollie and Sam from Coindesk as well, and thank you to all the staff at Coindesk to help put this together, working really hard behind the scenes. It was an absolute pleasure hosting this event, and I hope, ladies and gentlemen, you go back with a little bit more optimism, hope, and very much curiosity to explore the future of the Metaverse. Until then, we'll see you next time. Take care, God bless, and good night, everybody. Bye.